Welcome to Give No Fox, a spiritual podcast. I'm Cheryl Bradley, and these are some of my friends. Stephanie.
Hey there, I'm Stephanie Fulgencio.
Hi, I'm Danielle Jewell.
And I'm Allie Ruby. Ba-ba.
And we are three spiritual coaches and a medium. We are this little group of lovely friends who the universe has brought together to, learn and grow. And we enjoy our conversations so much that we thought you might like them too. So thanks for coming. We thought we would kick off today by telling you a little bit about ourselves and maybe how we came together and how we all started along our spiritual journey pathways. And since I don't have anything prepared, I think I'm going to let someone else go first. Danielle, you're probably the most comfortable discussing yourself. You go first.
Well, I'm glad it appears that way. No. So I am a evidential medium and an intuitive guide. So intuitive guide is just my way of saying kind of psychic, and evidential medium means I can talk to loved ones that have departed this earth and stay with us on the other side. I started my spiritual journey probably really started focusing out on in my early 20s, and I really focused on being an empath and what that all meant and how I could try to process some of the ridiculous feelings that I would have. And then once I had my daughter, by the time she was 2, she started saying and doing things that I recognized from my childhood. And that kind of triggered me more to want to find out what this was all about, because I just never wanted her to feel alienated or alone like I did. I wanted to understand what was happening so I could be a better mom for her and help her understand it. And so I started doing more and more looking into it and kind of finding out what all this meant. And then I lost my mother unexpectedly, and it triggered kind of this avalanche of information. And it was when I went to connect with her through a medium that I discovered that I myself was meant to be a medium, and I haven't looked back since. So it's been kind of a whirlwind of about 3.5 years. But I've loved every minute of it.
And I love your psychic abilities, because I was going to say, when did this all take place? And I didn't have to, because you knew I was going to ask you that question.
And I didn't know that story. Actually, I didn't know the part about that you found out about your mediumship abilities through a medium reading for your mother. That's very cool.
Yeah, tell her the curtain piece.
That happened. So I found out about the mediumship. So I started looking into it. I took this random class, a Zoom class with a medium that's based in the UK. And it was during that class that I did my first 4 readings in one class with 4 different people. And that kind of kicked everything off. And then I did another reading. It was a mediumship and a soul reading. It was kind of like a past, present, future type reading. And I guess there was a bit of a prophecy put in that I still don't quite know how to interpret. But when my mother came forward in that, the way that they explained it to me was that she was in a dark room, and it was like she opened up the curtains and all this sunlight came in. And then she said, just like that, my daughter saw. And that's how she explains my abilities. It was almost like it was just like that. And now I just keep the blinds open.
Keep me in the light.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that so much.
So now we have to follow that. I mean, that's the best story of all.
No, you guys have great stories too. I know it.
Oh.
So let's go next.
Oh, I'll do it.
I was looking at you. I knew it was going to be you. I should have just called it out.
Yeah, from here on out, it should just be, go ahead, Danielle, just tell us how this shit's going down. Right. I don't know. I feel like I have been on like a seeky, learny, whatever path for as long as I can remember. But in my 20s, I was super codependent for as long as I can remember, a real people pleaser and, you know, whatever, the way of the world type person. And in my 20s, I started trying to really kind of uncover and heal the codependent part of me and figure out like how to have, you know, relationships in general, not just like romantic, but family and friends. And like, even as far as like at the grocery store, don't spend the next 7 hours in the corner with the teller, you know, going through everything that's wrong in your life and their life and whatever. And in that, I feel like I kind of got that deeper seeky ball rolling. And then in my late 20s, my life was on a kind of a snowballing, pretty steady, strong trajectory. And included in that was a lot of me just, I thought I had figured out most of the codependent stuff, and I had a lot of it, but one of the biggest relationships in my life was also a very, very large active role of stuffing, and in that I was basically entirely stuffing myself. And I was getting really uncomfortable and got really sick. And I got really sick, and then I learned some things, and it was kind of like I just blew up my whole life. My whole life really essentially blew up in its own, but I didn't try to like put any pieces back together. I just kind of brushed it aside and started over. And in that, I kind of really started like the big, deeper journey of like spirituality, as well as like choosing myself, trusting shit, all of that. I dug up my entire yard. I just spent every day like 14 hours digging in my backyard that I wasn't working and replanting. And then when I would plant everything and I still didn't feel like I was done, I would dig up what I planted and plant something new. And then ended that summer with camping for a bunch of days by myself out west. And that was like kind of the final cap of like, okay, I don't go back to fully ghosting myself like I had been. And I think that was kind of the biggest shift point where my whole life just officially took on a whole new, you know, path and role. And then, you know, eight years later, here we are in the camper in my yard. Where everything ends up, in a camper in my yard.
I love it.
You didn't share who you are and what you do.
Oh shit. I'm Allie, and I do a lot of things, but I guess mostly in this field and modality, I'm an inner voice facilitator. So I help people connect to and like really open up the lines of communication with their intuition, or inner voice, or soul, or tiny genie, or, you know, loins, whatever we would call it, just to really open up that connection again, because, you know, it's always there, but I had spent my life ignoring and stuffing that voice, and just consciously and actively and intentionally pushing it aside. And so I help people reconnect that voice, and then also regain all of that trust and confidence in it, so that they can have that connection active throughout their, you know, every average day, like on a pee break, walking in the park, making a big decision, grocery shopping, what am I going to wear, just all the things. And then I'm also an RTT practitioner, so rapid transformational therapy practitioner. That's what I do.
You sing.
And I sing stupid shit. There we go.
Go ahead, Steph.
All right, I'll go. I'm Stephanie. I am formerly a marriage and family therapist. Left that, went to be a business consultant for a while, and then had a big spiritual awakening in my 40s. And now I'm kind of going back to my roots working with people, but now as a coach. And so my spiritual thing, as I said, started a little bit late. I was total skeptic, total, actually really kind of an atheist until I was about 42. And then I had just kind of a really big spiritual thing just kind of come upon me. So I wasn't seeking it. I was doing yoga, I was doing meditation from sort of a, what's the word when it's not religious, it's
Is this for like a health standpoint?
yeah, there's a word I'm trying to think of that I always use, and I'm blanking on it, but it was not from a religious place. It was not from a spiritual place. I was doing it for for health, for, relaxation, stress
Secular?
relief. Huh?
Is that the word you're looking for?
Secular. Yes, thank you. That was the word. So I was doing it from a secular place. And so since then, in the past few years, since that happened, my whole life has changed. I just, 10 million and one things have opened up for me. And, I've really kind of gotten in touch with so much about who I am. I've processed so many emotions. I've kind of just gone through this really kind of deepening process. I've always been really into personal development and, trying to better myself and setting goals and all of this stuff and reading all of the books and everything. But then that day that spiritual shift happened, and all of a sudden I've taken all of that energy and it's just become, this really intensive spiritual journey. And it's just the most important thing to me, because after 20 years of trying to force myself to change and feel better and be different ways, as soon as the spiritual piece came in and that expansion happened, then everything just sped up. I mean, everything just became so much more meaningful and impactful, and I didn't feel like I was just spinning in circles anymore. I was really moving forward. So it's something that now I feel compelled to to share, to kind of put together my old self as a therapist with all of this new understanding and this new journey that I'm on, to start, to work with people again in a different way. So that's me.
Yay.
And I'm Cheryl. I'll back into who I am, like from a coaching perspective, because it all kind of unfolded down this path. So my whole life, I felt like I was both a mirror and a sponge for people. And I couldn't really understand how those two things could be true at the same time. And so I found it just really confusing. Like, how do I absorb everybody's stuff and yet I reflect all their stuff back to them? And so, like, what does this mean and who am I? And it just, none of it made sense to me. And so I got married and was not happy in that relationship, and started little by little to kind of hear, to Allie's references, that own inner voice of mine, and all of these things that I had been, stuffing, and like, I'm doing this, like hearing, but like hearing them over here, right? Like, I'm not going to look at them. They're not going to be right in front of me and be a part of my life. And so I started to listen to those and to realize, like, oh, I'm not wrong. I'm not wrong about this. Like, I always thought there's something wrong with me and I'm wrong. And I need to, I'm sure we'll talk about all of this, but I need to work harder, love more, be something different than what I am, to like make myself fit into these spaces and these relationships and this life. And so I start to hear this little voice that's basically like, no, you're not wrong. And like, you don't belong here, essentially. And then I don't know if it was on Facebook or where it was, but I came across Judith Orliff's empath quiz. And so she takes you through these 20 questions. Like, are you, sensitive to noise and light? Are you sensitive to loud noises? Are you really tired after you spend time with a lot of people? And I was like, yes, 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 yes. I scored like 20 out of 20. And it like blew my mind to uncover the idea that there were other people who were like me. Like I had no idea. I thought like I'm just really sensitive and that's just how it is. And I just need to figure it out to like fit into this world that feels like too much to me. And so right around that time, I'm learning I'm an empath and I'm learning, oh, you're not wrong. And I'm learning I don't like this relationship. And so I left that relationship and kind of along the way had been studying the body and inflammation and health and food and nutrition and rest and all those things. And so I ended up going to the Institute of Functional Medicine through their Functional Medicine Coaching Academy to just give me some kind of credibility as a coach. And, I had been a stay-at-home mom for 8 years, just researching on PubMed every day. And what I found through that program was that I thought it was going to be all about, gut dysbiosis and health and wellness. But what it really was about meeting people where they are without judgment and listening to them and then helping them, find their own way. And so that's how I coach. And inevitably, all of my clients end up being sort of a reflection of me. A lot of them have very similar backgrounds and histories and struggles to the same things that I have. So I would say I'm a functional medicine coach. Maybe I'm a spiritual coach. Maybe I'm a life coach. Like you can call me whatever you want, like I meet you where you are and we talk about stuff and hopefully it's helpful. So that is my long way of explaining who I am. So
that's the perfect summary. I meet you where you are, and then hopefully it helps.
That's the goal. I mean,
yeah,
I think it helps people come back, so it seems to help.
You know what I love about these 4 introductions, which we did not practice or plan out in advance. I just love that each one kind of reiterates the one thing that we all always say, that these spiritual journeys, they have to start with us. Like it's got to be for us, because when we try to do it for other people or we try to focus, it just doesn't click. It won't click until it's about us. And it's one of the things that I talk about the most. And each one of us, I think, did a really amazing job of kind of putting that into a package, because it was for each and every one of us in our own way what we needed to start healing.
Mm-hmm. And at exactly the right time.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's impossible. It won't happen until you're ready.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then
what a lesson.
Do with that? How can you help someone else? Like that's the interesting thing too. And this is a, interesting question I hadn't considered. I'm such an external processor, as all of you know, and all of you listening will learn. I figure shit out, like as I'm saying it out loud to you. But I wonder, are there people who go through this who aren't compelled to share that with other people and don't feel like, okay, now I have not even a sense of obligation, but to me, there's a little bit of a privilege, maybe, that like you could help someone through that. Like I wish I had known someone to help me through that.
That's exactly why I'm doing what I do, because I looked for me when I first had my awakening, and I was so confused and I was so disoriented and I couldn't find anybody who was speaking my language. But I do think there are people who don't feel that, because I think we were drawn to each other because we all in a way have something similar about our personality types, right? That we are that person that wants to share what we've learned and help, others who are a couple steps back along the path. But I think that there's a lot of other types of personalities, engineers or something like that, like my dad, who, if they have a spiritual awakening, they're not necessarily, they might be, I'm sure spreading their consciousness in different ways, but not necessarily as a coach or a healer or anything like that. My thought.
I think my dad would qualify as that. Like when you talk to him, when you get him talking, like it's hard to get. Most people think that my dad just doesn't speak, but he has a shit ton to say, and he's funny and brilliant and wise as hell, but he rarely will share those things. But when he does, it's like, wait a minute, dude, you've done all this. But he doesn't get into it unless you like find it at the right moment. Like you're on a boat on the pond or something, and then he starts talking and you're like, holy shit balls, Dad, who knew that's where you were going to go with it. Go ahead, Danielle, sorry.
No, it's okay. I was just gonna say, I don't think everyone is supposed to do it in such a way that is so public or put out there. I think that's when we get, well, we all know, right? We've all come across the people in our fields that do what we do, but don't do it in a way that makes us feel comfortable, right? Mm-hmm. So some people are meant to use their other talents in conjunction with this journey to help people and guide people. And some people are meant to just let them, you know what I mean? Like your dad's, like, they're just their own lighthouse. They spread their story by just being them and loving people as they come. If that makes sense. But yeah, I just don't think that everyone is supposed to do it. And one of the things I love the most about us and how we got together and how we started doing this is that we just talk mostly about ourselves, right? And we find the more we do that, how many people out there have similar situations, or we're looking for an answer that we've already found. And it just ends up, it's kind of like, as we wade through our own shit, we're kind of leaving a path for others. And that's what I like about it the most.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well put.
And I hope they think so too.
Right?
Well, if they're here and they're listening, because I can think about plenty of times throughout my life where, I probably did encounter someone who had already I certainly encountered people who had already gone through it all, but I wasn't at the spot where I was ready to receive, hear, or deal with any of it. And there was times that people had gone through things and then would try to be like, hey, Al, what are you doing? And it would just be like, la, 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 la. I'm not available for that right now. But for the people that are listening and do resonate with it, like they're showing up ready for the things. And so it's so much better than trying to jam something down somebody's throat when they're not there for it yet. Because that sucks and doesn't do anything beneficial.
I would have thought all of us were wacko about 4 years ago, so including myself.
I love that so much.
I think the people that are meant to listen will. And I think there's something to be said about it's really different to just kind of be talking and not like talking to each other and not talking at someone. You know what I mean? I think that's what makes it a little different, is that there is no like, we know everything, you have to do it this way. It's just, we all come from, in some ways, different walks of life. We all have different paths that brought us here. So we all have a really great different perspective to add to things, and really just can be vulnerable. That's the one thing I think that people miss when they're in such a vulnerable place when they first start these spiritual journeys. And then they find these people that seem so confident, or like, oh yeah, I never was there. It seems like they were never there because they're too good to be there or something. And when you're feeling vulnerable, to be able to listen to someone or interact with someone who also has all these vulnerabilities, it makes it so much easier to accept and hear and kind of find your own, where these things fit in your own place,
I think that's such an important point. And, I talk about this in coaching and in some of the things that I research, and, like, you don't have to listen to me. This is just what I did. This is what worked for me. And I think that, if you look at things from a similar perspective or through this lens, this might also make sense to you. But it's always going to be, your your decision to take what works for you and leave the rest in all things, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think we should be really leery of anyone who thinks I have all of the answers and you should all be listening to me, because we're all different. I mean, even just physically, right? Like the way I detox is different than the way that you detox, and what I eat and how much I exercise and how joyful I am in my relationship are different than all of you. And so anything that I bring into that, circle of who I am influences all of the rest. And I think it's silly to think that there is some like cookie cutter
Mm-hmm.
methodology for almost for anything. I mean, even diet, people love to be like, well, this is the diet that everybody should be on. It's like, well, not so much, right?
Yeah.
We're all different.
Yeah.
And when you've read 10,000 personal development and spiritual books, like most of us have, or all of us probably, you notice that there's 50 books by 50 different authors, all sort of about the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
They get from one place to another place in a totally different way, maybe not
Mhm.
totally different, similar, and then they've got their process and they share it with the world, and that's going to resonate with certain people, and it is going to be the way for certain people, or it can be, but not for everybody. And that's why there's 50 different books on the same thing, or 1,000 or whatever, because we, those of us who do step into these positions where we're like, hey, I've been through this and I feel like I want to help someone else through it too, then we share our process, and then there are certain people that it resonates with and not with others. And we share our process, but in a way, like you said, Cheryl, it's not like this is exactly how you do it, but this is how I did it, and this is a way that works, for some people. Let's see what works for you.
And take
Mhm.
part of it, right? You're an individual, and so your process is going to be individuated. And so maybe working with one of us or all four of us is going to be a part of that. Maybe it's not. Maybe you're, Allie, it sounds like you did a lot of kind of like nomadic in the desert, be alone journeying, like, and what keeps coming up for me when you were talking, Stephanie, was about, all those books being different versions of Joseph Campbell's The Hero's Journey, right? This is all, everyone has their own hero's journey. And so what does yours look like? And like, maybe we'll be fortunate enough to be a part of it or to share some tiny snippet that will help someone. But I don't know. We're not experts. I mean, we're doing what we can.
Yeah.
Cheryl, it's so interesting that you brought up the hero's journey, because when that awakening thing happened, I think I've shared this with you guys, but when it happened, I was writing in my journal because I had watched that Power of Myth episode about the hero's journey. And I was writing my life story and asking myself, if this was a hero's journey, what would the purpose be? What has this all been leading up to? And that's when my entire world exploded. I mean, so there really is something to that idea of your life being a hero's journey and looking at your life that way. I think it has a lot of power, because I think a lot of us just walk through our lives thinking, that none of this is significant. I'm just trying to get through it alive and be okay, for another day. But when you look at your life in that sort of mythical way, it really can shift something within you. It's a beautiful, way to think about your life.
Mhm.
Yeah, or we talk a lot about, not asking, why is this happening to me, but asking, what is this happening for? And so I think if you're looking at it through the lens of why is this happening to me, then like you're not necessarily going to find that thread to that purpose and that meaning, right? But if you can shift that perspective to be, what is the lesson here? What am I supposed to be learning or growing from here? Like, you look back, there's probably quite a few people in different bodies who sound and look really similar, right? Like, what was the lesson there? What were you supposed to take from that? And did you? Or do you get to get the next 5 that the universe has waiting in the wings for you? I'm all out. I don't need those 5. Let's go help somebody else, I would like to, you know, give my extras back to whomever's doling them out. All done.
I've learned. I find that it's funny because we all have these like personal journeys, right? We all have our lessons that we have to learn and that are specific to us in this lifetime. But doing what I do, I find the more I do it and the more people and spirit that I get to talk to, there's such this common thread that people don't tend to acknowledge. We all have like the same lessons to learn. We just learn them at different times. And there, all those times that we feel like no one understands us, or that we're alone, or that, you know, this is, you know, harder for me than it is for other people. It's just simply not true. There's so many people out here who are living the same lives that we are, that need the same healing and acknowledgements, and just feeling like they are seen. And I think that's one thing, by sharing our stories and our day-to-day lives and you know, all these things that we discover as we're continuing our journey and our healings and our growth, it won't feel like you're so alone out there. There's so many people that are dealing with the same things, just different ways and different timings. But this is a very vast universe, but the amounts of lessons we have to learn are like this big, and they just seem so massive to us, right? Like it seems like, where do we start, you know? But it's nice to know and to recognize that we're not alone in this, that we're not crazy, or you know, life isn't just hard for us because, you know, the universe hates us, you know. It's just not how it is. It's nice to know that there's real people with real lives that are going through this.
Yeah,
that's always been my reason for doing this.
And when you hear about people who travel around the whole world, you know, working with people, they say that it's the same everywhere too. You know, sometimes we tend to think that, you know, we think kind of small, and we don't realize that people everywhere in every situation have so many of these same feelings and things that they're working through.
Universal lessons, right?
Yeah,
absolutely.
So we titled this episode, "We Need a Logo."
Yeah. And technically we still do.
We still do. I was going to say, and because we haven't quite nailed down all of our logo stuff, that's going to happen after this. But I was wondering if we wanted to talk about why we called the podcast "Give No Fox."
Yeah. I like that.
Or we could save it for another time, and Allie can edit this out.
No, let's do it. Let's do it.
Well, I mean, how did we come upon that? We got a Trello board and we put about 500 things on it.
That was part of it.
We definitely had to have something having to do with a curse word.
Yeah, because we all like.
Otherwise, it wouldn't be authentic.
Yeah,
you're gonna hear a lot of curse words. Let's just accept it now.
I love that smattering of profanity. It feels like softening.
Yeah, it's like a classy way to say that. We're so not
full of F words in here.
Yeah, it could just be "Give No Fox," a spiritual podcast with a smattering of profanity.
Yes,
and we're covering all the bases, because I don't think I've said the F word yet, but it's coming. If I haven't blown it out, it's on its way.
It's in the chamber. It's locked in.
I've got it ready.
And Danielle would know. So.
Oh no.
And I think also, aside from, you know, the mildly veiled profanity, it's also, I mean, we liked it because "Give No Fox" is kind of like, you know, we're just gonna, you know, be ourselves, and we're not gonna worry about, you know, what it looks like or what it sounds like. We're just gonna be us, because we've learned that these conversations are interesting and valuable and fun. And so we specifically did not take any courses on podcasting or follow all the gurus about what you're supposed to do. I had someone specifically tell me, 4 people on a podcast, that's going to be confusing. Nobody's going to know who's who. And I said, I don't care.
Yeah.
Give no fucks.
You can watch
Yeah.
We give no fucks.
Yeah, I love it when people like to tell us that something doesn't make sense or it's not going to work because, well, I just like to shove it in people's faces. No, another thing too with the fox is back when we first decided we were going to do this, I was sitting and I was using my animal spirit deck and I was just pulling cards for myself. And one of the things that I decided to pull cards on was just the energy around me and in the podcast and what this podcast was going to mean, and one of the cards that came up in that was the fox. And I think that's how one of the reasons the fox got on there, but it just kind of reiterated that fox energy, that wise learns from your environment. Our pack is going to be committed and we support each other and we look out for each other and we're wise teachers, not because we feel like we have to talk down to people, but because we can use what we've learned by our own experiences to pave a path for others. And I just felt that was such a strong, poignant card to pull. And I shared it with all of you. It just kind of stuck somewhere in there. So now you guys are all my foxes. And and here we are.
It's so funny. I actually forgot about the card, like somehow, because it went so perfectly with the profanity that I forgot about that.
2 cards. There was the fox and the snake, right?
Yeah.
Notice we did not choose to emphasize the snake.
Well, and the snake is a great one, but the snake was kind of going to be the obstacle, and meaning that, and it was one of the things, it was the main reason I think that we were so adamant that we didn't make this such in a box exactly the way people expected it to be, because that snake energy is that energy of just knowing who we are, and it's in our core, in our lower back, just coiled, ready to come out. And if we were going to push that aside and try to make this about what others would expect it to be and not what was true to us and in our spirituality, it was going to fail. So we had to focus on being the foxes and let the snake energy come out the way that it was supposed to, and not try to hold it back. And by making these weird processes or trying to be in boxes that other people set up before us, it was just going to block that energy. So it was one of those things that I always was like, I'm going to steer us away from this a little bit, because I didn't want that to get caught up. I didn't want us to block our snake energy.
It's easy to do.
I don't think I told you guys about this. I'm certain I didn't, because I don't think I even put it together until now. But this was before we talked about the podcast or anything, probably just by like a couple of weeks. But I was swapping inner voice sessions with my friend Melissa, and we were just like trading off services basically. And she was giving me a session, and at the end, I'm gonna fuck it all up because I don't remember the specifics, but
there it was.
Hey. And we're done.
We need like party hats and streamers, like.
This is when we take a shot. But at the end, she had my inner voice just give me 3 items to like hold on to, and it was I saw like a circle sun, and then the other 2 things was a fox and a snake. The fox and the snake I couldn't get rid of the whole time. And afterwards I just drew a little fox and a snake on my notebook and said, I don't know what to take from those, but that's what I got. And I was supposed to just focus on those. And then, you dirty shit bags, here we are.
Right.
With a fox and a snake.
How are we just now hearing this? That's amazing.
I know. Well, she saved it for this, and everybody gets to join in with us on the.
There we go.
I love those moments though.
Yeah, how perfect. Hot diggity. Well.
Yeah, I think people. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, should we talk about, how we decided to actually do the podcast, or why? Did we already cover that?
I don't think we did. I think maybe saying what's coming and what to expect would be good for people who are listening to this lovely intro of ours as we put ourselves out
Also,
here.
this will be the most we'll have to think probably, or like really focus on the episode with having to like introduce ourselves and stuff. So this is the big one for me to have to say who I am and what I do is like, I don't know, I do that maybe once every 20 years. So once, and then once again really soon. So sorry, carry on. Yes.
So the podcast kind of grew out of a wild idea that I had. So the backstory, the like big backstory, is that I was in a Facebook group with Stephanie, and was in that group for business coaching. I got all the coaching pieces sorted out. I have the functional medicine pieces sorted out. I'm an instructional designer by nature, background. So I'm good at teaching people how to do stuff. Business, not so much. That's not my strong suit. So I heard this business coach and took some courses from her and met Stephanie. And she was hosting rooms in Clubhouse and asked me if I wanted to listen one day. And I was like, okay, sure. And almost didn't go because I was so tired. And it was like a weird day where I'd woken up at 4:00 in the morning and she was hosting it, I think at 8:00 on a Sunday. And so at like 7:30, I was like, I think I'm just going to go back to bed. And at 7:45, I still wasn't asleep. So I'm like, okay, I'll go to the Clubhouse room. And Allie was there, and I ended up staying for 2 hours and heard like all of this amazing conversation and was like, this is great. And I'm in love with this. And I want to do this every day now. And then side note, I had been hanging out at Barnes and Noble one day and Danielle was stalking me and, dancing around in the aisle next to me, and finally, came over and sat down next to me and said, hey, I'm a medium. Have you ever had a reading? Because I need to talk to you. And I was like, of course you are. No, I haven't, but that would be wonderful.
I mean, what a
I
dream.
never do that, by the way. Like, that's why it took me so long to go up to her. Like, I don't know why I felt then. I didn't know why I felt so drawn to her. Now it kind of makes more sense. But I feel like every time I say, oh, that's why I had to talk to you, or, oh, this is why we met, then something else happens that makes me say that same thing. So I've just given up on saying it. It's just kind of like, just full acceptance that had nothing to do with me at all. That was all the universe pushing me there. But yeah, I never do that. I kept going to my husband like, I think I'm supposed to talk to that lady. And he's looking at me like, because I don't ever do that. You know what I mean? And he's like, okay. It was in the middle of a pandemic and I'm just some weirdo that like plops down and
Yeah.
Like, get out of my book. Because I wanted to look at the book she was sitting in front of. That was originally why I went over there. And then I just kept being drawn to her. I was like, I need to talk to her.
And I was not moving. I mean, I sit there and I stay there for like an hour. So I wasn't going anywhere either.
Do you guys know when you met? Because Allie and I, now I'm forgetting. When was it that we met? August 1st?
I think oh shit, was it September? August 31st, maybe. September 14th? I don't know.
It was somewhere around there.
I think August 31st. Is that a day of the month that it happens, or is it 30th?
That sounds right.
Okay. In 2020?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We met on June 25th, 2020. And the only reason I remember it is it's my husband's birthday. And we had just left San Francisco. We went to San Francisco, which was amazing during the pandemic because there was nobody. And so we went over and we were just exploring and going to all the places that are usually so packed that you can't get to, like seeing all like the stuff. And so we were coming back and we just stopped in because my daughter was adamant that she wanted to go there. And so we stopped in and the rest is history.
Yeah. So Danielle and I kind of had this, not friendship yet, building, but I did a reading with her and then I did a follow-up reading with her. So I knew about her and I believed, her implicitly that she was, not hacking my Facebook or anything. turns out Danielle does not have any social media, so she's not the Google research queen that I am on people, that's for sure. So then I am like sucked in a Clubhouse and I'm like, this is amazing, but I know Danielle doesn't like social media. And so I'm like, I want her to come and do this, but I don't know if she's going to want to do that, if this is going to feel too much like social media. And so at some point we had a conversation about it and I said, will you come? I'll send you an invite and you'll come. And then we all started doing rooms together. And then one day it just occurred to me that like we could do this where like lots of people could listen. And what I always loved about us was that not only did we fill all these kind of like niche searches that all of us had for ourselves, but that I feel like we talk about big important stuff in a really accessible way, and without a lot of like Stephanie says, like, what did you say, like spirituality without the woo or something like that?
Light on the Woo was the name of one of those
Yeah,
rooms that
so
we did. Yeah.
turns out we do have lots of woo, and like if you guys are gonna hear it, like we're gonna talk about crystals and tarot and pendulums and Danielle talks to dead people. You can't get more woo than that, really. So, but it's like, I don't know, like it's not in this, I don't know, crazy, funky, weird way. Like I always just thought like us all talking and all of the love and affection that we found with each other feels good, and I think will feel good to other people. And I hope that listening to us while you're walking or driving in the car, ignoring your kids with your headset in or whatever you're doing, will feel like you're having coffee or wine with your friends. Like that's how it always feels to me. Like we're just chatting about stuff, and eventually we're talking about the soul's expansion and your purpose of life. It's like
Yeah, the other day, didn't we, within a few minutes, went from talking about how much we hate bathroom attendants at clubs to talking about what spiritual awakening and ascension.
Yeah. Which are very clearly connected.
Yeah.
So connected.
those bathroom attendants are very spiritual. I mean,
they have to be.
Yeah, there is something keeping them grounded. I'd be out of there really fast.
So I think what we've talked about doing is that each podcast will have kind of a loosey-goosey topic. Where we'll kind of, at least start and end there and weave around and see what happens. And we'll all kind of share our perspectives, which are similar but different. And we're not going to have a lot of scripting or a lot of planning. We're just going to have conversations around, interesting topics that have to do with spiritual stuff and also just life stuff, I think. But even if we're talking about something that's not spiritual, it'll get a little spiritual.
It always does.
It always does.
Yeah. Every time I start talking anywhere, my daughter's like, "Are you going to start talking about spirit?" Oh, like I don't mean to. Somehow it always just ends up coming up, and then
because it's everything. I mean, what else?
Every part
There's
of our
nothing that it's not about, and that's the thing. Like about spirituality, to me, the spiritual journey is the only thing I care about because it is everything. It's parenting, it's work, it's taking care of myself, it's everything.
Yeah.
Pervasive. That's the whole point. Spirit is in everything, right?
Yeah. And we'll talk about everything from being an empath to spiritual awakenings to boundaries to, oh my gosh, we have like 1,045,000 topics. So
specific number. Yeah.
There's a lot of them. A lot of them.
And all with a smattering of profanity.
Yeah, sometimes more. Sometimes it's just a lot of profanity with a smattering of spirituality.
Yeah, it depends on how passionate we're feeling.
Torrent of profanity. I love it. Yeah. You can expect a bunch of metaphors and a bunch of "I read this" books.
Yes.
Yeah. Except for I always feel the worst because I don't read a lot of books.
That's because
you
you
Yeah, but you talk to spirit, so
Yeah, you don't have to.
I just go straight to the source.
Yeah. Yeah.
we're
Books are
all
like
working
bypassing.
our way there, and you're like, oh, I already know all of this. I'm like, oh,
yeah.
just keep reading the
You
book.
mean the Barnes and Noble of spirit in my mind? Sure, let's go there.
Uh,
Oh,
that's funny. All my reading is actually the reading I do. I shouldn't say I don't read. I love to read, but I read books to kind of keep my mind occupied outside of. So like if I need to like unwind, I'm reading some book I can get lost in, or like doing a puzzle or something.
I think that's what people used to do before social media scrolling started to happen.
I'm that weirdo
So that makes sense.
that doesn't do that.
You're like our time capsule.
Yeah.
Right? Over here doing crossword puzzles. You guys are in the year 3000 somewhere.
I wonder if when you come back, if you'll always abstain from social media. That'll be so, I mean, we won't really know, but maybe we kind of will know, you know, maybe
I don't know.
we'll ask. Oh, maybe we could ask about the future.
You know what's so crazy is like Disney reference. We're gonna end up like Wall-E, where the technology is gonna implode our worlds eventually. Like nobody's gonna have a choice, and then I'm gonna be like the only smart one that knows how to use a map and find my way without Google.
A little plant.
oh my God, the one who remembers phone numbers. It's not just programming in your phone. And the one who doesn't need Siri to tell you where to go and all that shit. Yeah. Wall-E is one of my favorites. Talk about
That's a great movie. You'll have like the depth perception too, because you haven't had the screen in front of your face.
Yeah.
Oh my God. It's just too hard for me. And I don't judge anyone who does it. Like, it's not like a judgmental thing. I think a lot of people think that apparently I'm a horrible mother because I don't let my kids have it either. And I'm going to let them decide when they're older, but they're still younger. So I get to still control them a little. But for me, it's just too hard. I find it, it just drains me. I feel like anytime I'm even around it, like if my sister calls me one more time and is like, I got into a Facebook argument, and I'm just like, with who? Who is it? I don't know them. Like, well, then why?
Yeah.
What happens? You know how you fix it? Get off social media, but nobody likes that. They're like, she's like, no, how do I fix this without getting off? And I'm like, I don't know how to help you.
I don't know. Don't ever look at a comment. That's, I think, step one to not having a Facebook fight. But I stay up as much as I can because it can fill me with sadness a lot of times. And I seem incapable of not reading the comments as much as I like know that's the shit canyon that I shouldn't walk into. I'm always like, oh, what is everybody saying? And it's like, oh God, this is what everybody's saying. And then it's sadness.
It's like driving by an accident. Like you cannot, it's really hard not to look if you're already there.
Look, I mean, I want to chime in. Like, I'm going to be like, that is not true. Like,
and that's one of my things.
PubMed article, this is what's actually true.
Cheryl's the odd one out in that way. Like all the rest of them are like, oh my God. Cheryl's like, come on, I'm here.
I would be Cheryl.
Let me show you how right I am. And then it's like a fight. Not good. I've learned.
My neighbor has gotten kicked off of Facebook a couple times because he laughs about it, but he actively is like he trolls. Like he specifically goes out there trolling. I think he's in his 70s, but he freaking loves it. And I was like, holy shit, you're a troll. He's like, I know. People can't handle it. And I'm like, God, you're why I can't be on there, man. But he, like, it is a real source of joy for him. It's pretty cute.
I have a feeling one of our topics is going to be internet trolls. It's going to happen. It's going to come up, and we're going to have to talk about it.
They are not those cute little things with the hair and the belly button of gemstones and shit like when we were little.
Yes.
No.
I remember those things.
Yeah. Do I?
I've watched that movie about 10,000 times, so I remember them very well. It's actually a really good movie.
Yeah, I like them.
Maybe we'll do an episode on spirituality and children's films.
Uh-huh.
Oh, yeah.
Look, I get a
Some
lot
good
of
ones.
my information from Disney, so I'm just kidding, I don't.
Take
But
it.
I love to use them as metaphors.
Yeah.
My biggest spiritual source is the Fast and Furious trilogy. I'm kidding, but that's where I get all of my real, revelations.
Too fast, too furious.
How many movies do they have now? They probably have like 12.
500.
I think 9 is coming out or something. Yeah. But I think
I
this
saw
is
the
focusing on
preview.
Vin and yeah.
And
Boy.
I was like, there's something wrong with this animation, or not animation, the special effects. I was like, they're kind of throwing in the towel now. They're just throwing in shirtless guys and hoping you'll forget about the rest.
Yeah. Man nipples in a car and going with it. That's right, Cheryl. What? Sign me up. They cracked the code.
They're like, we've done this 8 times. How can we do something totally different?
Bring back the cute blonde guy.
Throw in John Cena. Wait, didn't he die?
Died. And then like,
I don't
Talk
think anybody has
about
the
a
power to bring him
curveball.
back, sweetie.
yeah, can we discuss this?
Oh God.
Actually,
Yeah, I'll see each one of them in the
somebody
theater.
asked me. Sorry, go ahead, Allie.
No, go ahead.
Well, somebody asked me the other day if you were able to channel or talk to like Elvis, or like, can you pick people, or does it only
yes
work
and no.
with, like, loved ones?
It doesn't necessarily just work with love. I mean, well, yes and no. Like, somebody can't just come to me and be like, I want to talk to Elvis. Well, one, because there's absolutely no way, if you didn't know Elvis, for you to verify anything that I'm saying. So there's nothing evidential about that, right? And also, spirit nor myself are performing monkeys. So when they come and they do this, it's for reasons to heal and to give you closure. It's not just a novelty thing. And that is something that people don't like when I have to tell them, especially when it comes to like my nieces and my nephews that are like 17 to 23. They think that I'm like a fun novelty at parties. I'm like, no, it's not how it works.
Yeah, because wouldn't the spirit like have to want to have some reason to come?
Well, they're always there. And so, especially your loved ones and people around you. So I can usually always give them something, but I don't spend a lot of time doing it because they're not, it's just like, how did you know that kind of a thing, right? And that's funny sometimes, and that can be fun, but that's not really what I do or why I do it. So like, if you're coming to speak to me, you can tell me that you'd like to hear from so and so, and I can always start with them. And then even if they just come to let you know that they're there, the person that really needs to get their message across will be the one that comes through the most. And I always tell people, you get what you need, not necessarily what you want. And sometimes you don't know what you need until you hear it. But yeah, I can't, just because somebody was like a Beatles fan, I can't like go talk to John Lennon for them, because if they didn't know him, then there's absolutely no way I can be evidential, right? You can't validate anything that I'm saying. I could tell you a million things that anyone would know about him, but then anyone would know those things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I mean, not always. Like, my husband and I went to this town near us called Bisbee, and it's like this old copper mining town here in Arizona. And I mean, it's just full down, like old Bisbee, downtown Bisbee is full of like all these really cool vintage shops and things like that, but they're all really old buildings that were turned into something else. So we went into this store that was a like an antique store, and it was like 3 stories. It was this old bank. It was at one point the wealthiest bank in Arizona, like in the 1800s. It had the most money, probably because Tombstone's right here. There's the copper mining. It was like booming right there. And we're walking around, and we were in there for like ever, and we're walking around, and we finally make our way from like all these crazy floors all the way down to the basement. And the minute we hit the basement stairs, my husband's like, "You know, downstairs," and I almost didn't want to go. I was like, what's going on? And as I'm walking down the stairs, I keep telling him like, oh man, there's a guy here. And he's like, where? And he's like thinking that there's like I'm like, no, like there's like a man here. And then as soon as he walked downstairs, he's like, oh, I can feel it. You know what I mean? Because my husband has his own, he's not a medium, but he has his own psychic abilities. And he's just super amazed by all these little, because they left it very original. So there's all these little twists and turns, and there's like old vaults. And I'm like, I'm not going in that vault. There's somebody's gonna shut the door on me. Because he's like walking in the vaults and he's like looking around. I'm like, I'm not coming in the vault. I'm sorry, it's not happening. Like, I'm on edge right now. And so I went upstairs, and when we were leaving, I told the owner, I was like, just so you know, you have a man that stays downstairs. And she's looking at me, and I'm like, a spirit, like he was really connected to this place. And this was before I knew like the whole history of it, but I was like, I don't know why downstairs is so important, but I almost feel like it was his office or something. And then I was able to tell her all these interesting things about him, but she really couldn't verify any of them because she didn't know. But
Yeah.
if she did research, maybe she'd find something out. I have no idea. I don't even know if she was the owner, but I told her, I was like, he just stays downstairs, but he doesn't want you to be afraid of him. And she's like, that's really the message I'm supposed to tell you. He's not here to be negative. It's just, he likes this place. It's his home. So he just watches out, and he loves all the different people that come here. And he just loves being down, because they called it the bargain basement, and it was just full of things that people really didn't pick up, but it was such old stuff. And it was just very interesting to him. And so I was able to give her all this information, but the only way she validated it was by telling me that like they had just had an incident where somebody quit because they were closing up at night, and they thought they heard somebody downstairs. So they thought, oh, because there's so many floors and so many nooks and crannies, they thought, oh, I closed up with somebody still in the store. So they turn on all the lights, and they go downstairs and look around, and there's like nobody there. And as they're coming back up the stairs, they heard footsteps behind them, and they turned around and nobody was there. So she's like, we're done with paperwork. I'm done. And she like never came back. And that had just happened. So she's like, yeah, she just quit. And I was like, well, he's not trying to scare anybody. He just watches out for people.
Okay, but he should know that that's kind of scary.
Go back there and just tell him. Don't ever walk up the stairs.
I'm just gonna follow her
behind somebody. Yeah,
kind of creeping us out when we turn around. There's no one there. We heard your footsteps. We don't like that.
I think it would have been creepier if he had like showed himself. There's like some,
Can they do that too?
What if he was a flasher?
Yeah, people can show themselves if they want to.
What if he was a flasher?
Trench coat.
What do you do if it's assault from spirit, though? If it's like, bro, keep your trench coat closed.
Right.
I don't know. I'd quit. If that happened, I would definitely quit under those circumstances.
You'd come back.
You don't want to see your spirit penis.
We've come full circle to consent again.
Yeah. So all the information I gave her, the only thing she could validate was him saying he didn't mean to frighten people. And then she's like, yeah, he just frightened the shit out of somebody. And so
maybe he felt bad.
Yeah. That's what he was. I mean, he was just like, I'm not trying to scare anybody. I'm just here, and so that was kind of like that really long way of explaining that, sometimes random things will come up, but, I'd love to go talk to like a bunch of really cool people. Right. But it just doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
You could start traveling to like famous people's houses and stuff,
Yeah.
Houses that they used to live in.
Yeah. Well, it's crazy. I'm really sure like things come up when I'm at places like that. So who knows what it'd be like if I ever went to Graceland, then I could probably channel all this like crazy, right? But here, especially, I love going to like Tombstone, and there's this place in Tombstone called the Birdcage Theater. And it was they call it bird cages because it's literally like little arch windows upstairs, and that's where the ladies of the night were. It was the original brothel of the Old West. But you walk in there now, it's like a museum downstairs, and you can see the birdcage windows, but you can't go up there. But it is like immensely heavy going in there. The energy there is like outrageous, and I still get drawn to go there, even though every time I leave I'm just exhausted, but I love it at the same time. It's really weird.
Oh man, it's so freaking cool.
Yeah,
so cool. Do you ever get requests to like, has anybody ever come to you and said, I need to talk to, I couldn't think of any names, and I picked somebody that was still alive, but can you connect me with Elvis? Have you ever gotten any odd requests like that? Or is
No,
it usually people that they know and have loved?
usually if people come to me, they're looking for something. You know, people who like to question me or want to try to test me, you know, will say things like that, like, oh, well, can you talk to this person? And it's like,
Yeah.
what is it that you're going to validate out of this? You know what I mean? And so I can say yes, but then I'm just going to look like a fraud at that point, right? Because I can't say anything. You know, I could tell you that Elvis loved to wear purple polka dotted underwear, but who knows that? Nobody knows that unless you knew him, right? And then, you know, so I won't even try.
Yeah. Yeah. So interesting. Oh.
I keep wanting to go back to New Orleans. I went for Jazz Fest probably in like 2004 or 2005. It's been a really long time. And I was thinking that I might go this year. They moved it. It's usually in like the end of April, beginning of May, and they moved it to October this year because of COVID. But that is such like a heavy energy, haunted kind of place. It would be fun to take you.
I've always wanted to go. I've never been, but I've always wanted to go. And
oh my God, I think you would be like the whole time.
Buzzy. Yeah.
For
I'm
sure.
not very fun when I'm buzzy.
Because I was.
Yeah. I'm sure it would be. We're supposed to visit my sister-in-law, and she lives in like the panhandle of Florida, which is pretty close to New Orleans, actually. So that was one of the options when we go visit. Like, you guys want to drive over to New Orleans for a day or something? I'm like, I'm going to need more than a day, but I'm excited to go, but also like, because I've heard that it's a very connected. It's just one of those places that the veil is very thin.
Yes. And I'm
There's
not,
a few of those.
I don't have what you have, you know, or like not yet, or not in that way, but like I could feel it all over the place there. So I think for you, it would be wild, but it would be fun as a party trick, you know, dancing monkey kind of for me to win, you know, like, ooh, who is
but
that?
I would probably be super buzzy, and then when I get all buzzy, people think like I'm on meth or something, and then
yeah, you're a little,
I get really buzzy. I do.
You
I get
haven't
super
had
buzzy.
one of those pre-reading experiences with Danielle. It's like she ate, like it's like she drank like 6 Red Bulls. Like her energy is really, really high.
Especially when there's somebody that's like impatient, that just wants to get their information out. It's like, if I don't start talking soon, I'm gonna vomit.
Yeah, you talk really fast and you're really amped up and like, you know.
Yeah, and then once it starts coming out, I just slowly. It's like a letting air out of a balloon. And eventually, I come back to normal.
Let's just say this: I look like the calm one, and like that's usually my role.
Funny. It is like we did this Zoom event, and we had somebody there that even like an hour. Well, it was actually a few days before that I started feeling this, and then like an hour or two before, it was just like. I couldn't breathe. I'm like trying to get ready, and I'm like having a panic attack in the shower. I'm like, can you let me just get ready? I was a mess. Thank God for Zoom. I couldn't even put pants on. I was so hot and sweaty. I was like, I told her, I was like, I have no pants on, so I can't stand up. I'm too hot.
When you finish, are you usually exhausted? Like, is it peak energy, and then when it's done, you're like, you are the deflated balloon?
Sometimes when I do the rooms like on Clubhouse and I have like a lot back to back, then I'll feel like I need some water and like some carbs stat. But I don't get like exhausted, like I have to take a nap. It feels like an adrenaline rush crash or something. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like somehow this got really weird, twisted, turned on to me, and that was not what I meant to do.
I love it.
It was me because I asked you about Elvis, but it doesn't matter. We'll all have our moments.
Maybe someday we'll have to all like go to Graceland and find somebody that knew him and see what happens.
And see if he does have purple polka dot underwear.
Yeah, that would be crazy, right? That's on video. I approve.
Yeah, I
approve. Email Graceland and be like, does Elvis have any purple polka dotted underwear?
Okay, well now I'm gonna have to ask Google. I'm good.
Elvis's underwear.
Thing.
Yeah.
You never know. If someone knows about it, someone wrote about it. You know.
That's probably true. Absolutely true.
Well, my beautiful friends.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're nearing
I
that
think
time.
this was a great intro to what we're going to be doing.
This is who we
Okay.
are.
Yeah.
Welcome to our craziness. I can't wait
I
for
think
the
it's
next
good.
one.
Yeah. Start digging
gonna
into
be
some
great.
shit.
Do we need to do some closing jingle or something? Like, what do we do at the end?
Did you guys get my choreography for the dance that we're all supposed to do? No.
See, this is where my
This
no
is
pants
tough.
is going to become a problem.
Yeah. We knew someone was going to flash on this call. Get it,
Oh,
Danielle. Yeah,
No.
we'll make an outro jingle one day.
Yeah, we need an explicit language warning and a nudity warning. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this was fun.
yes.
Yeah. I'm excited.
Yep.
Lots
There,
of
there it is.
There you go.
There it is. Good day to all. All right.